بینەران و بیسەرانی خۆشەویستی ڕووداو کاتتان باش من مەجید نیزامەدین گلیم لە هۆڵی کۆمەڵی گشتی نەتەوە یەکگرتووەکانەوە لە بارگای سەرەکیەوە لە شاری نیویۆرکی وڵاتە یەکگرتووەکانی ئەمریکاوە لەگەڵتانم بۆ دیدارێکی تایبەت لەگەڵ بەڕێز یان کۆبش نێراوی تایبەتی سکرتێری گشتی نەتەوە یەکگرتووەکان بۆ عێراق و بەرپرسی بەرنامەی نەتەوە یەکگرتووەکان لە عێراق. Thank you very much, Mr. Kubish, for this opportunity. I believe this is your first exclusive after the referendum and after all the defeat of ISIS. A lot happened in Iraq since the last time we met. I believe it was 2000. We had this 2016.
That's a long time. True.
I will start with the elections. What do you think about the election process?
Well, first of all, I believe that that was a very necessary step, not only because it's prescribed by the Constitution, and I believe that every country, every citizens, every political leader must respect the Constitution and the laws of the country, but also after the defeat of Daesh, that was another natural step to solidify, if you wish, this victory through creating political conditions for creation of a new government that would move the country working together in the post-Daesh period and will turn the attention to extremely important set of political, economic and social reforms.
And about the process itself, there's a lot of accusation of fraud, complaints.
You know, first of all, we noticed that the elections took place in largely orderly way, environment of security, if you wish. We should not forget that, for example, Daesh threatened to disrupt the elections, and they failed. There is no other way how to say it. They tried several times, but otherwise the people decided to go and vote. Secondly, a lot of preparatory work was done, and of course, as the third point, there are always issues as regards the elections. For that, as prescribed by the law, and it must be done, of course, by the electoral management bodies, there is the complaints process, and this is what is happening now. Parties that do have complaints, and we are receiving also a lot of parties that are sharing with us the complaints that they are then lodging with the respective electoral management bodies, because it's for them to decide. They have now a chance to go both through IHEG and then eventually through the judiciary to have their complaints adjudicated. In
your remarks to the Security Council, you notably mentioned Kirkuk as one of the problems for the elections. Why is that? Was there more complaints from Kirkuk specifically?
As you have noticed, we have noticed as well, and we were approached by a number of political parties. They expressed their dissatisfaction with the situation, with the electoral process, and of course with the results. We registered this, but we noticed as well that indeed the situation is heated, and as in many other parts of the country where indeed a certain situation happened, we use this as an example for bringing to the attention of the electoral management bodies the need to adjudicate fully in a very professional way, timely way, but also in the full transparency and ensuring the integrity of this process of adjudication of complaints. Kirkuk might have a specific meaning because, let's not forget, this election is this election, but in the process of this year, the country will have the provincial council elections. Exactly. And for the first time after maybe 13 years, that's in Kirkuk, they will have the provincial council elections as well. So there is a need to reassure the population of Kirkuk, of this province, that indeed the electoral process is good and the adjudication of eventual complaints is also professional, transparent and good, to instill more confidence in the elections, in the process before the provincial council elections, and for them to engage in the provincial council elections.
Now there are serious efforts in Baghdad by some parties to recount, to redo the elections again. Do you think that's possible, and do you think that is good for the country?
First of all, this is the matter that must be decided once again by the bodies that are responsible for it. We are not managing as the UN the elections. We are not supervising the elections. We are not a part of the complaints process. We are bringing to the attention of the respective authorities some issues, but it's for them to adjudicate similarly. And all that must be in full accordance with the laws and the constitution of the country. Parties have the right to raise issues, to raise concerns, to come with ideas. But again, it must be in conformity with the laws, with the constitution, follow the regular channels, and also with a clear understanding that there are also procedures, processes and timelines for all of this.
But overall, you seem, and honestly most of the representatives of the countries who made remarks about the Iraqi election here at the United Nations, overall congratulating this process, and understandably so after ISIS war, after all these disasters. Now you have, as Nikki Haley, US ambassadors mentioned, the same security that was fighting ISIS now protecting the ballot boxes to have an election. It's understandable. That's why let's move to the next topic, which is the government formation process. How is that going right now?
Well, I believe that the first step has not been taken yet. I believe that the final certification or the certification of the final results is the next natural step, because for that you need to complete the process of the adjudication of the complaints. And only after the final results are certified, then I believe that we will see a real, thorough process of negotiations. For the time being, yes, all political blocs, parties, individuals, leaders, they are talking to each other, they are testing the water, they are coming with ideas, with proposals, including on what principle, what kind of government should be formed, and they are getting reactions from the other partners. I believe it's a natural step. But again, I believe that it is necessary not to try and jump over the stages. So for me, the completion of the adjudication process, complaints adjudication process, will be a very important milestone. And then I expect that very quickly after this, the parties will start negotiations. Because what is important from at least my perspective, our perspective, is to see a very rapid process that would lead to the creation of the new government. So many tasks ahead of the country, so many challenges. People, by not going, if you wish, many of them to the elections, they express a certain degree of disappointment, and at the same time expectation for the future. Even those that didn't vote, they send the signal: we expect you to deal with the bread and butter, if you wish, issues that concerns us, concerns our security, well-being, economic perspective, social perspective, etc. So the government should be formed as soon as possible with a good pro-reform program, a very representative government that would go across the board, that would include representatives of all segments of the society, all the components, and that would ensure that indeed interests of all the people, if you wish, will be taken into account in light with their expectations.
You are, I believe, the only official in Iraq that can have access to all the parties, from the sides that are all seen as closer to Iran, from the groups in Iraq that are seen as closer to the US. You meet all of them, including Muqtada al-Sadr, which is right now is seen as the winner of the election. What do you think about him, and is he going to be the leader of this government formation process, or it will be more multilateral?
Well, I believe that it's not what I think, but what are again the realities. Look, right after the announcement of the preliminary results that put Said Muqtada as the first among equals, if you wish, because the distance between perhaps the three main blocks is not so big, right? You saw a flurry of activities and negotiations that he started, and he either visited different parties or invited different parties, and different parties accepted this. So it is telling me that the parties at this point of time, still before the final certification, accepted that Said Muqtada is perhaps the driving force. Not that others are not talking. It's obvious that all the parties, they are talking to everyone else, right? But if I look at the realities on the ground and the process up until now, you see a very dynamic role of Said Muqtada and Sayro.
How important is the participation of the Kurds in the next government?
Extremely important. Extremely important. And I'm very glad to see that while still the process of, again, complaints adjudication is going on, to see that everyone, if not everyone, the majority of political forces, they understand that the future protection and pursuit of the interest of, be it the federal state of the Kurdistan region and the people of the Kurdistan region, is through their direct engagement both in the parliament in Baghdad and in the government in Baghdad. So, and I believe that's the right approach. I believe that that also motivated many people in the Kurdistan region to go and vote in spite of maybe disappointments after the referendum. Nevertheless, they recognize that the way forward for quite a foreseeable future is through working in and with Baghdad.
Going back to the issue of Kirkuk, diplomatic sources have told me that U.S. Have in the beginning been pushing the idea of solving the issue of Kirkuk and finally implementing the Article 140 part of UNAMI mandate. That job is for Security Council. I know that's not your decision, but do you think a UN mission is equipped to handle such a complicated mission of implementing a controversial article of constitution such as 140?
I think yes. I think that, again, it's based on the fact that we talk to all the parties, and I believe that maybe with, from time to time, certain degree of disappointment and criticism, the parties also understand us, respect our role, and are ready to work with us. I believe that we are very well positioned for that. So it's good that we have it in the mandate, I assume, but again, it's for the Security Council that it would be appropriately reconfirmed in the new mandate that should come sometime in July. And we, as the mission, we are already taking certain preparatory steps. We are talking to different parties in Kirkuk, all of them, if you wish, including the civil society that is very often neglected, including women groups, etc., that are very often neglected. With the youth, we need to work more, because we would like to indeed be true to the inclusive character of this. But we are already talking, working, trying to test the water, test the feeling. So yes, I believe that at least this is our intention, provided of course the parties would wish us to do so. We would be very much engaged after the elections with the parties, both in Kirkuk but of course in Baghdad and in other places, and contribute to hopefully gradual resolution of the issue of Kirkuk.
Do you is it in the draft right now? Is there discussion at the Security Council about this?
I can't say simply because it's indeed for the members of the Security Council. But my recommendation to them is to keep this door open and to keep this as a part of our mandate.
As part of it, you keep saying keep it as part of the mandate, but from my understanding, for the U.S. diplomats and from a letter from KRG, from Kurdistan Regional Government to members of Security Council that Rudaw have seen, in that letter, Kurdistan Regional Government is asking for bigger role in the mandate, basically highlighting the Article 140, and apparently not just Kurdistan Regional, many other parties in Iraq, they want to see UN, they trust UN more in having a bigger role. What kind of bigger role the UN can have in this?
First of all, to understand the situation, to talk to the parties and to come with maybe some ideas how to organize, help the parties organize their own political life and resolution of certain issues in the province. Then, of course, the province is not in a vacuum. One must talk to other partners, including political forces in Baghdad, in Erbil, in Sulaymaniyah, if you wish, and all that is in the pipeline. This is what we will do. Once again, yes, I am aware of the letter of the authorities of the Kurdistan region to the members of the Security Council, requesting this. It's for the Security Council, in consultation also with the government in Baghdad, to accept, to give us the mandate. But once again, my encouragement, my line is that this is a very important part of the post-election period of life, and here the UN can contribute to find solutions. So I hope that it will be there.
That's what I was going to add. How important is solving the issue of Kirkuk, given it's been an issue that has been there for decades between the Kurds and the Iraqi government. Why now, and how important it is to solve that issue of disputed territories?
You put it yourself. This question has been open for quite a while. There was some reason why for a good number of years there were no provincial council elections in Kirkuk. So the situation was in a way petrified as it emerged some 13 years ago. That's just telling you about a lot of issues and a lot of problems to find solutions. So it is high time. This is a new phase in the life of the country. I believe that everyone learned lessons from the advances of Daesh. Everyone learned lessons from some other developments, including from what kind of messages and responses were sent through the referendum. And everyone now, I believe, knows that the only way is finally to negotiate and to then find solutions to including this kind of very sensitive issues like Kirkuk. So this is a good time to move in this direction.
And there are, especially now, there are reports of accusations of Arabization by the Iraqi forces in Kirkuk. Of Arabization means pushing Kurds out and letting Arab families in. There are many reports about that. The thing is, I'm from Kirkuk, as you know, and from relatives, from family, what I hear is, the impression is no Kurd in Kirkuk is accepting what's called the reality after October 16, 2017 events, which basically ended the Kurdish military presence in Kirkuk. Most of people see it as an occupation, and for me that is disturbing. And do you share the concern that this could lead to a conflict, instability, if this military status quo is not changing in Kirkuk anytime soon?
First of all, Iraq is one country, so I don't think, at least from my perspective, using certain terminology like occupation is something that you use in one country. And Kirkuk is a part of Iraq. So from that perspective, yes, one can register sentiments, but they should not determine the solutions. The solutions must be reached through open negotiations, when all the parties would put all the concerns on the table. Security, demographic issues, economic, political, everything, including management of political processes there, and find a solution. And I have to say that I saw some areas, without going into specifics because this is not the time for it, where indeed I detected that the parties might develop some commonalities already now and could find some solutions. Because it's true that as everyone is unhappy with certain facets of the situation in Kirkuk, not only the Kurds, but the Arabs, the Turkmens, etc., and of course then some other groups as well. Everyone is pledging to work for solutions. This is for me a good start, because we know what are the problems, we know what are the complaints, they know better what are the problems and complaints. But there is a growing understanding that just to state complaints and expect that the other side will simply disappear, no, this will not happen.
Well, that's certainly good news to hear. And in terms of Erbil and Baghdad relationship, how is it right now? And is it true that oil issue will be next in terms of if they go back to talks between Baghdad and government?
I would say that there is a new beginning. Once again, the fact that the Kurdistan region and political parties there took part in the elections is telling you that indeed they see the way forward through cooperation. So that's a good start. This new beginning means that even in the formation of the government and discussion about the government's program, no doubt there will be certain issues of relations between the federal authorities and regional authorities that will be already on the table, on the agenda, and the program of the government will send certain signals, including in which areas to focus the attention. I assume that oil and revenue management, including adoption of certain roles that are necessary, would be very much on the agenda. Organization of the export of oil will be very much on the agenda, but there are many other topics as well. So I assume that yes, and I hope that the new program of the government, and in which government I indeed expect participation of representatives of different Kurdistani political parties, would already include at least some signals about what should be the way forward.
And the issue of the salaries, which is in Kurdistan region, as you know, it has been, people feel it has been used as a political pressure, as a political card against each other. Do you think it's right to use an issue of people's well-being and living as part of a negotiation? Or there should be a legal mechanism for distributing government salary, basically?
Well, I believe again in rule of law, and I believe it is important to find a resolution of this issue that would, in a way, give a clear understanding what are the rules of the game, what is to be happened, what are the obligations of which side. Because again, up until now, you see the line from Baghdad and you see the line from Erbil, and at this point of time the federal authorities they contribute to a part of the salaries, saying that of course as there is still some revenues coming to the budget of the Kurdistan region, the Kurdistan region should participate in paying other parts of the salaries. All these issues should be depoliticized and eventually should find resolution based on clear criteria and understandings of how to proceed, the mechanism that should then establish the procedures that will then be binding for
and of
for
course
everyone.
International power, and specifically US and Iran, have a major role because they have big influence in Iraq. What's your, let's say, advice to them, to these international stakes? Because we know in Iraqi politics, Iran, US, and even neighboring countries, they could have big role. What would you like to see from these parties to do in the next phase, which is very, very important for government formation?
From my perspective, what is the most important is to have the government that will really pursue the policy of good neighborly relations and good relations with all the partners, be it from the region or outside the region, but based on the full respect of sovereignty of Iraq. That would be the government of Iraq that will be determined to pursue this course, and based on mutual interests and respect, and of course accommodation of mutual interests. There are so many areas that would determine this kind of cooperation, and that's the only way forward. But it starts with the formation of the government, with the right approach. If that approach would be there, then international partners would simply have to comply. Right. So from my perspective, it's through a good homework in the creation of the right government
from the Iraqis
in the
themselves.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And the topic of reemergence of ISIS, it's something, as I'm sure you are well aware of, most of the diplomats here from Russia, from US, from all the sides, they are worried about when it comes to Iraq. I would say it's number one goal, priority for at least the United States, to not see re-emergence of ISIS in Iraq again. How concerned are you about that issue?
Well, it's a very complex issue. As we know, that it was not by coincidence that a lot of people at least tolerated Daesh when they captured 1/3 of the territory. But here you have also a solution. Listen to the needs of the people. First of all, return those IDPs that are still scattered around the country back to their homes, create conditions for them, but deliver justice, deliver accountability for all sorts of crimes, deliver stability, deliver opportunities, economic, social, deliver political good management and general good management, deliver community reconciliation, and find the right solutions also at the national political level that would underpin this efforts to bring the communities together. That's the best way. Again, it's the homework. It's something that must be done by the country, by the people, and the government, the central government, regional government, and the Kurdistan region, because they will have also some influence there. And then the provincial bodies, they should work very hard in these areas.
Well, I'm hoping the political elite in Iraq listen to this and actually implement this. It's actually true. It's all most of the problems and the causation of what happened with the emergence of ISIS was economic grievances and in terms of development. Well, we are at the end of this interview. Thank you very much. I know how busy your schedule is, and I always appreciate your taking the time to talk to us, and hopefully I will see you in July and have a safe trip back to Baghdad.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.